Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, police arrested a man who was trying to sell off-brand Viagra to a retirement community.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. What do you think this means for my order? Am I still going to get it?
You know, Tony, that wouldn't have sounded so scandalous when Viagra was first, put out there, because it was a cardiac medicine. It was for the heart.
That's right. That's
and
how
then
it
they
started.
discovered this other purpose. Oops.
Yeah.
So what is he trying to do? Huh?
Now it's the biggest selling medicine in the whole world. I'm quite certain about that. Yeah, welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bears need a win. Joe Burrow believes the Bengals must win, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with baseball. All 4 playoff series resulted in sweeps, 2 by home teams, Minnesota over Toronto, Philadelphia over Miami, and 2 sweeps by road teams, Texas over Tampa Bay, Arizona over Milwaukee. Wilbon, which losing team should feel the worst?
Tampa. To me, this isn't even close. I mean, Tony, and Milwaukee can feel a little they were at home, and they were starting game 1 against some rookie pitcher from Arizona, and they couldn't get that done, and they lose both games at home. But, Tony, I think you have to say Tampa. You win 99 games. You get the start that they got this season. People went crazy 2 weeks in, and you and I kept saying, hey, it's April, shut up. Nothing's decided in April, but people don't listen to that now. People get crazy, and they start telling you they're the first team to do this since the... And it was all just hype and overstatement. People were overwrought. And it was unfair to Tampa on some level. But ultimately, they did go on to win 99 games and got popped.
That's right.
Got popped, Tony. That was, I think, the biggest surprise. And again, I would go Arizona winning both games in Milwaukee second. I guess Toronto, you could say that's somewhat of a surprise. The Twins taking it to them like that. Philly did what they're supposed to do.
I would have bet all the money I had in my pocket, you would have said Milwaukee. Because it's the division that you watch.
Yes.
And they're a Midwestern team,
yes,
which you believe automatically carries sainthood. And I believe that Milwaukee, which won 92 games and had substantive leads in both games and then laid down like dogs, they should be embarrassed. I'm a little bit different than you. I can't decide between Toronto and Tampa Bay, but the reason is because I've been saying all year I thought the American League East was the best division by far in baseball, and now I fear for the Orioles. I am sort of amazed at Minnesota in this regard. They had lost 18 straight playoff games, Mike. I don't know how that's statistically possible, because if you're a playoff team, by definition, you're a good team. I don't care how long this spans. 18 is just mind-blowing to me. But I agree with you on Tampa Bay, and I know there's nobody in the stands, and I know nobody cares, but they did win. They did win 99 games, and they were the best team in baseball for the first 3 months. And so I am really surprised at that. I think we can both agree, though, with sweeps, we've sort of washed the riffraff out of the playoffs right now. We move now to tonight's football game here in the nation's capital between the 0-4 Chicago Bears and the surprisingly 2-2 Washington football team. Our emphasis here is on your Bears, who are now 3-18 in the Matt Eberflus era, 0-14 in their last 14. Wilbon, I'm going to go get a sandwich while you talk. Should Eberflus be coaching for his job tonight?
Yeah, he should. And Tony, I say that sort of sheepishly. You and I have known enough coaches in all sports. I mean, this is a livelihood. And there's some guys we may not like, but they got families, and these are their careers, and you don't want, this is not sports talk radio. It isn't. We're not just sitting there saying, get rid of this guy. No. And Chicago's my home, and I've cheered for this team and followed all of the coaches since George Halas, including the end of George Halas. And there's some that I thought should be fired. Nagy was one of them after a 12-4 season. But Eberflus, Tony, they don't seem to have any grasp of what they've got, particularly offensively. What they've got. We saw potentially what they have, because when you set a club record and go 16 for 16 and then 23 for 24, don't tell me Justin Fields can't get this done. And then there are other things in that game, other decisions, other calls. Yeah, you've lost whatever you just said, 14 straight games. You lost to the Packers at home to start the season. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't lose down in Tampa like you did. Yes, He's on the hot seat. It's deservedly so. I might have fired him Monday. I might have fired him after the game against Denver. I really might have.
So I think it's common belief in Washington here that Ron Rivera is coaching for his job this season.
Okay.
But I think Eberflus is on the clock tonight.
Yeah.
I think if they lose, they should probably make a change tomorrow.
Mini buy.
Mike, they are bereft of coaching. Didn't their defensive coordinator walk away a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
And now Eberflus is doing that.
Yep.
I don't think the offensive coordinator is getting the most out of Justin Fields' talent, whatever his talents may be. And I think because you have 10 days until the next game, a new guy can come in and do something. In fact, I think it actually could be a clean sweep, or as we say on this show, phone call for Jeff Saturday.
And they're all mostly saying the same thing. We saw Fields. What do you got? What are you putting him in position to do? What are you doing with the rest of this roster? You got receivers and runners and people now. The line is still subpar. But Eberflus, I mean, it's on him now. He's got to shoulder the responsibility starting tonight. Joe Burrow believes his 1-3 Bengals face a must-win game Sunday against the Cardinals. Since he's injured, quarterback says he's feeling better and said yesterday, got to win, whatever it takes. Doesn't have to be pretty, but we have to come out with a win. Close quote. When asked directly whether he thinks this is a must-win game, Burrow said yes without hesitation. Tony, do you believe this is a must-win game for Cincinnati?
It's hard for me to believe that in week 5 there is a must-win game. I mean, I just, I don't want to get carried away here. I know if they lose, they would be 1-4. But they're in a division with Pittsburgh and Cleveland, so I don't want to get carried away with how they would be sunk for the rest of the season. What I think is important, win or lose, is how daunting the next 5 games are in the Cincinnati schedule, Mike. Seattle at 49ers, Bills, Texans at Ravens. That sort of feels like it could go 1-4. So if they lose this to go 1-4, then you're looking at 2-8, and then you're done. So if the quarterback says it's a must-win game, maybe it is. And if it is a must-win game, then I like my chances against Arizona better than against a lot of teams. I don't think it's a walkover. Arizona beat Dallas. They're also 1-3, and they lost to the Giants. So, yeah, I would take my chance with Arizona rather than 4 of the next 5 coming up.
I think it's a must-win. And I think you hit on the reason, the biggest reason it's a must-win is because your star, your franchise player, your quarterback, your leader, a guy they believe in that locker room. They believe in Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. Wrong time to have that new commercial out. But they believe in him, Tony. If he says it, he made it so. I hate the phrase, he spoke it into existence, but that's what he's done. He's put the pressure on that team. Now, I think there is a bigger agenda here. You got to keep Joe Burrow healthy. You got to get him into that stretch you just ran down closer to what we think of Joe Burrow being healthy. When he says his throwing isn't effective, where he can move in the pocket and take off occasionally and pick up a first down, because Joe Burrow is a hell of an athlete in addition to a hell of a passer. So I think
if he's on one leg, Mike.
No, they're not going to get
They're
it
not
done.
going to win 8 games. They're not going to win 8 games. And what
agreed.
he said was, I feel better. He didn't say I feel
great.
good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a distinction we have to make. Let's take a break. Coming up, how are the Cowboys positioned to handle Christian McCaffrey? We're going to ask Booger McFarland.
We'll also ask him what sort of test number 1 Georgia should expect from Kentucky. It's not basketball.
I really like Burrow. I mean, to me, when Burrow's healthy, he's one step below Mahomes. Like, he's that high, to me, when he's healthy. He got to the Super Bowl already.
Yeah.
Pardon the interruption. Presented by Truly Hard Seltzer. Part of Happy Hour.
In a story we broke in our first segment, Week 5 of the NFL season kicks off tonight, which makes it a perfect time for a visit from our great friend, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst Booger McFarland in a Ryder Cup shirt. Let's start with this. Mike and I wondered when we started the show, whether or not the Bears could fire Matt Eberflus if they lose tonight. But we're not players. You were on teams, I'm sure, where coaches were fired. Maybe not head coaches, but maybe them too. At what point do players know this has to be done? We got to make a change.
Well, there are a couple of things that happen. I remember when Tony Dungy got fired when I was in Tampa. When the noise starts to get too loud, you started reading articles from people that you trust in the media. You start hearing things in the building, and when those things start to come together, and also you have to realize, I think the biggest issue we talk about, guys, is when the head coach no longer can command the room, meaning the players inside that room are no longer listening to the head coach or motivated by the head coach. And let's face it, when you lose as many games as the Bears have lost in a row, like something's amiss. Something's going wrong in there. We understand you're trying to break in a young quarterback. We understand there are things going on. Now, with all that being said, I think Matt is a good coach. I hope they give Matt the gift of time so he can fix that situation. But we are in a production type business where you have to produce. And when you have zero in the win column, at some point, I think the people upstairs are going to start to pay attention to that.
We'll go to the marquee game of the week, Booger. Cowboys at Niners. The Cardinals had no answers for Christian McCaffrey last week, but the Cowboys defense is supposed to be a lot better. Do you think they're better enough positioned to handle McCaffrey and all that production he's been throwing out there?
Yeah, Mike, I think they are, but they're going to have to show up and do it. Like the most physical football team in the NFL is the San Francisco 49ers. So before we deal with the speed of Christian McCaffrey and the elusiveness of him, we first have to deal with the physicality of every player on this team, from the offensive line to Juszczyk to Kittle to all these guys that are going to come at you. And we haven't even gotten to that defense that's so physical. They almost remind me of your Bears back in the day. You talk about the monsters of the Midway, Mike. This is what they are in San Francisco. They are a big, physical football team that have a very innovative head coach who calls the plays and puts his players in great positions. So to your point, does Dallas have what it takes to get it done? Absolutely. They got to first stand up to the physicality. And then Micah Parsons has to have one of those Micah Parsons type games, because when you're in these big games, your stars have to be stars, and he's definitely the biggest star on that defense.
49ers may prove to be a great team. We'll see how they play this week. In college football, so we're going to pivot, Booger, to get the other area where you an expert. Number one, Georgia was tested by Auburn last week. Do you give Kentucky, currently ranked 20, any real chance at all in Athens this week?
Yeah, I give them a small chance, a better chance than me, you, or Tony going out and shooting even par. So I'm going to give them a chance because I know that Kentucky is a very well-coached football team. I love what Mark Stoops has done there. They have a running back that can run the football. Their offensive line is one of the better offensive lines in the country. And I just love the poise and the moxie of their quarterback, Devin Leary. So do they have a chance? Absolutely. This is not the Georgia team we're used to seeing the last couple of years that has been just dominant over college football. I think we've seen this Georgia team in some battles where you say, okay, well, they're still struggling with South Carolina. They're still struggling with Auburn. They're not a dominant football team. Now, can Kentucky go out and get it done? You still got to go out and deal with the physicality of the Bulldogs. And I got so much respect and admiration for Kirby Smart because he understands who he is. He understands how to win football games. He's never going to deviate from that. Should be a really good football game.
Shooting par at my age with my skill level is 90.
That's a dream.
It's 90.
It's a fantasy.
That's my par. We will get you out of here on this. We'll stay with college. Number 12, Oklahoma. Number 3, Texas. Both unbeaten. They face each other for the last time as Big 12 schools. Who do you like in that one?
I love Texas, and this is no disrespect to Oklahoma, but I think Texas is the best team in the country. They got the single best win in America, going to Tuscaloosa and dealing with the physicality of Alabama and beating Alabama by double digits at home. We all talk about their offense. A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, the quarterback, Quinn Ewers, they're outstanding. But it's their defense for me that I think separates them. Their front seven, they got a couple of dudes up front that are built like me, Worthy, Sweat, Murphy, like those guys up front can absolutely get it done. I think they're the best team in America. Now, with that being said, you still have to go out and get 18 to 22-year-olds to play every Saturday. And I think that's the challenge that Coach Sarkisian has. And I look forward to watching him do it in the Red River rivalry or whatever they're calling it now. Like, these things change names so much. Can we just call it a football game and be done with it?
I liked Red River rivalry all those years. Well, what happened?
Pretty good.
The marketing people don't like that. Too bad for them, Booger.
Thank you, Booger, as always.
Appreciate
Great pleasure for us. Thank you.
Anytime. Y'all have a good one, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, a Giants lineman walks back his blast at the team's fans.
Too late. Don't try to delete. Don't just live with it. USA Basketball gets some big news about its gold medal quest at the Paris Olympics. What do you say they do? They think so.
So what do you think? Booger's got Texas as the best team in the country.
I can't listen. I'm gonna watch that game differently now. Having heard Booger say that, I'm gonna look at this.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Truly Hard Seltzer. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 34th birthday, Travis Kelce. The Chiefs' tight end was first-team All-Pro for the 4th time last season. He was 3rd in the NFL in receptions with 110, first among tight ends. He was 8th in receiving yardage with 1,338, first among tight ends. He was 2nd in receiving touchdowns with 12, first among tight ends. Kelce got his 2nd Super Bowl ring, and in that Super Bowl, he had 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. But that's not why we're doing his birthday. We're doing Travis Kelce's birthday because whether he is actually dating Taylor Swift or not, she's going to games to see him. And she has put more eyeballs on the NFL than anybody ever. Who doesn't like seeing that shot of her next to Kelce's mom? Come on.
Tony, this was the only show on the network that had not gone into pandering all week. And now we have. And I understand it, but the networks,
It's his birthday.
The networks and the NFL, it's a form of pandering. It is. And they went crazy for this. Listen, Taylor Swift is obviously maybe the greatest entertainer on earth today. I get it. Like, personally, I don't know. I couldn't name one of her songs. I couldn't. She's such a big deal that the networks have now just turned themselves over into becoming Swifties.
She actually is that big a deal, and it's fun to see.
So.
Happy anniversary, Brian Hoyer. On this day 9 years ago, the then Cleveland quarterback led the largest road comeback in NFL history when the Browns surged from 25 points down late in the first half to stun Tennessee 29-28. Since coming to the NFL as an undrafted free agent out of Michigan State, Hoyer has started at quarterback for 7 different teams, second only to Ryan Fitzpatrick's 9. Hoyer spent 8 seasons in New England backing up Tom Brady, among others, and he's got a Super Bowl ring. Hoyer turns 38 next week. He's currently on the Raiders, backing up rookie Aiden O'Connell with Jimmy Garoppolo out. And over his career as a starter, Hoyer is 16-24, 53 touchdowns, 35 interceptions.
The win-loss record isn't great, but the touchdowns to interception ratio is pretty good for a career backup. Yeah. And by the way, those old Browns uniforms, those are great. The stuff they're wearing now,
better than these.
Please, please,
junk.
Just trash that stuff.
Junk.
Come on.
Happy trails to Evan Neal ripping Giant fans. The Giants' struggling right tackle on an offensive line that allowed 11 sacks to Seattle on Monday night has apologized for his intemperate comments about Giant fans booing the team. Yesterday, Neal told NJ.com, and I'm quoting here, "Why would a lion concern himself with the opinion of a sheep? The person that's commenting on my performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere," unquote. Neal questioned whether those booing could be called real fans. But by last night, Neal was singing a different tune, writing on social media, quote, "I am wrong for lashing out at the fans who are just as passionate and frustrated as I am. I had no right to make light of anyone's job, and I deeply regret the things I said," unquote. Do you believe him?
Well, he regrets saying it out loud, saying it publicly. Does he regret feeling that way? I have my doubts.
I like the line about the lion and the sheep.
Yeah, just rip them. Just rip them. Don't take it back. Don't delete it. Let it stand.
On the other hand, 11 sacks is horrendous. It's terrible. All right, let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The boy Joel Embiid has decided to play for the USA in next summer's Olympics. Is that significant?
You always want Joel Embiid, but it doesn't mean all these guys are going to ride to the rescue and save the U.S. They're going to make it easy, and they're the Avengers. Stop all that hype. The United States men's basketball team is going to struggle to win gold in the Olympics next season. Get used to that. Bob Melvin will return as Padres manager. Makes sense?
Well, he could have gone the way of Nevin and Showalter and Kapler and been fired, but their differential, Mike, was plus 104, I think. That's pretty good. Yeah. Simone Biles and the U.S. team won gold at the World Championships. You're impressed, right?
Now, that's the heavy favorite for next summer at the Olympics. Simone Biles on any team, particularly ours. 7th straight world title. The NCAA cleared North Carolina transfer wide receiver Tez Walker to play based on new intel. Okay by you?
And ranked 14th, North Carolina against Syracuse this week. Maybe you can help them. Last one, Lionel Messi missed another game into Miami. Your team lost to your other team, Chicago Fire. Your thoughts quickly.
Invincible when he plays, 1-3-2 when he doesn't. I'm just saying.
Difference maker. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now it's going to be a real competition in Paris for basketball.
All right, Wilbon, you're a Bears fan. What should Bears fans be rooting for tonight?
Tony, this is a complex question. It really is. I'll tell you what I'm rooting for. And I do think what I'm rooting for, I've taken the temperature of the building. I've been in Soldier Field for the 2 home games this year. I'm going to say I'm rooting for Justin Fields at this point, because I want to see him succeed. I think he can. I think I've seen enough. Last year was, I know, running and, sort of these big splash plays. But then last week, 16 for 16, a club record throwing the ball, 23 for 24 over a period, a 28-7 lead. I've seen enough for him. I'm not saying he's without blame. But my primary blame goes to that coaching staff, to Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy and those guys. So I'm rooting for Justin Fields. I want Justin Fields to have a great game. If the Bears don't prevail, I can live with that. I really can, because what I'm sort of rooting for anyway, I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Bieniemy as our next coach, which also means I'm rooting for Ron Rivera to win a lot of games and keep his job in Washington. So that's where I am, but I'm rooting for Justin Fields first and foremost.
Yeah, I think if you're a true fan, you can't root for the team to lose.
No.
Even if you think the consequences of that are beneficial down the road. I just don't think you can root for a team to lose. And by the way, if the Bears lose and if they fire Eberflus, which you and I would agree would be the correct course to take at that point, if they do that, what makes anybody think they'll get the next hire right?
Yeah.
They haven't gotten the hire right.
4 straight bad hires since Lovey.
Right.
Yeah.
So what makes anybody think they're going to get the next thing?
Agree, Tony.
And what I wrote down here was I feel badly in this regard. The Chicago Bears are a great and traditional franchise, and they stink right now.
Yep.
And you know what? That's bad for the league. It's bad for the league when they stink. It's
bad for me, because I'm doing something tonight I've never done in my whole long life. I'm not going to a game that's down the street. I just flew to last week's game. I'm not even going to this one because what I saw disappointed me. So here's one thing, though, Tony, to keep in mind real quickly. The Bears have their own pick and Carolina's. Right now, that's 1 and 2. I don't want to get into that position again of, who do we take? Are we going to get Caleb Williams? Are we going to get Shedeur Sanders? I don't want to go down that path. I want to see Justin Fields, but I want to see somebody coach him.
Mike, if you get the number 1 pick, you have to take Caleb Williams. Oh, you have to.
So can we not go winless? I don't want to. That's why I'm not going. That's it. That's it. I'm done. Back to you.